Hello, welcome to Navigating to Success. I'm Jeff Carlton, Focal Point Certified Business and Executive Coach. Really excited to have Jason Fishman, co-founder and CEO of digital niche agency DNA and SVP Digital Strategies. But we're going to talk mostly about DNA today. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks, Jeff. Excited to be here.
Yeah, and also a fellow podcaster. He's got his hands in a lot of different pies. Does a lot of interesting stuff. So let's talk about DNA. Tell everybody what DNA does.
Absolutely. Digital niche agency DNA based here in Los Angeles, Marina Del Rey, California. We incorporated in 2014 as a growth marketing agency. I've worked with over 900 brands to date. I found capital raising to be a common theme among our clientele and basically successfully raised funds for some of our clients using regulated investment crowdfunding, got introduced to more of those deals to date, have now worked on over 500 investor marketing campaigns that have collectively produced nine figures of capital using content marketing, advertising, and outreach. And that's what I talk about regularly on my podcast, Test Optimize Scale. I'm part of the Crowdfund Professional Association board, actually part of the executive committee there, and doing meetings with DC and working on the next iterations of those laws, those exemptions. Uh, Part of the Forbes Agency Council, running 5,000 company, a lot of different events for this year, a lot of things to talk about. But that's DNA, and that's our day-to-day focus.
So, for those that aren't familiar, give them the 30-second pitch on what crowdfunding, uh, what it means.
Sure, sure. So, Reg CF, regulation crowdfunding, went into effect in May of 2016, and it allows uh, private companies to file a Form C, a form with the SEC to then solicit their investment opportunity to both retail and accredited investors, virtually any adult. You can use digital marketing tools such as advertising and outreach to drive prospective investors to your offering page, basically a
Right.
vertical version of your pitch
So,
deck.
sure. And so, in my understanding, it's the alternative to putting stocks out there on Wall Street. You're privately invested, privately held.
hmm
Um, which has that's a whole hour's worth of content of navigating SEC regulations and how that all works. But um, it's pretty cool. Let's talk specifically about DNA for just a second, though.
Please.
How big are you? How many people? Where are you at?
Yeah, I say the team's roughly 20. Uh, just under that, W-2 employees, and then contractors get us to about 25. So I say about 20.
Are
Work
you
with over 30 brands at a time.
so you get 30 brands at a time. That's a pretty good portfolio. Um, are you Are you locally based or are you virtual, national, international?
The majority of our teams in the greater Los Angeles area, we were in person every day before March 2020, and then moved to remote. Now have a hybrid model. So on Wednesdays, we're in person in Marina Del Rey, and I cycle out a different department each week. Do bigger, summits where we have everybody in. Still have a few out-of-state team members from hiring 2020, 2021 uh, era, but hybrid operating out of Los Angeles.
So that's an interesting topic too right now, and is becoming a focus. Is there's an impetus to get people back to the workplace in person. Do you find it's more efficient or less efficient?
Well, hybrid's different than in person or remote because hybrid is designed to blend. So, what I'm looking for in person is different with our hybrid model. Basically, having the team remote, you have to have very detailed SOPs, standard operating procedures, workflows. We have project management boards on Monday. You can look at Monday.com. We're using Slack. We're using a variety of the Google Suite. Have a list of softwares, but the day-to-day team management. lives in these reporting calls and discussions and platforms, and you almost have to pay more attention to what's going on using these digital formats. However, it can be a bit dry. Uh, do these assignments, have it done by this time. We'll check in once a day. It's not the same atmosphere as the classic, Mad Men style agency, and everyone's in the same place, and where we're going to lunch, and this is what's happening. Clients walking in later. So by having the team in once a week, I'm able to have that community element where,
Yeah, I
have them in one room. We're talking about projects as we're working on them live. We do a whiteboard meeting that focuses on a different product each week, and we just look at what's working, what's not working, how do we improve it and build off each other's in-person energy. We do a nice lunch. We usually do something fun after work. So it adds that camaraderie. It adds that person to person element, which I then see show up in the work that's digital throughout the rest of the week, where I even saw, finger pointing years back. I mean, there was less of a relationship. Some of the team members hadn't met in person for, periods of time. So I like that balance. I could tell you, it seems like we get more done remote. And then in person, there's better rapport, better relationships. Still have some, the team members pre 2020 that work with us and say they're never going to leave. So I think that loyalty goes a long way, not just for the company, but for the goals that we're playing at together.
yeah, like the camaraderie and the finger pointing, which the implication is that's bad, but I would say that a lot of co-accountability, if I can use that term, where people hold each other accountable, if they're working on the same project, that does tend to get lost virtually. So that's why we call it a hybrid model, I guess. You have, without diving into it, it sounds like you definitely have still are able to maintain accountability with your folks, and it seems like they're pretty motivated. And there you go, You're back. Um, so does that lend to a really good work-life balance for people?
Well, depends who you're asking. A lot of that's based on perspective, right? And uh, team members have shared with me, hey, last year, this year, I've done this with my, you know, personal life, and it's made a big difference. So I think you take an unhappy person and put them in any of these models, they may not be sharing the best notes on satisfaction. But I could tell you, I have team members who do an extensive amount of travel throughout the year and are able to effectively work remote. Mexico for weeks at a time. I mentioned Wednesdays in person, but for different departments. So some of my team members are only coming in once a month, twice a month, and they're able to, set up shop, put their home base, elsewhere, out of country, out of state for a few weeks at a time. Still do a great job. Still log into the daily calls, but complete everything that they need to. So it provides the opportunity for a good work-life balance, is what I would say. Uh, but I also have team members that don't utilize all their out of office time. They uh, look at it different ways, and everyone's got a different approach. So uh, I find it's the best of both worlds.
So let's switch gears and go back to something you brought up earlier that we said we would talk about. Dive into capital raising and
Yeah.
uh, and how that works.
Yeah. So as I said, capital raising was a common theme among our clientele, whether we were working on a pitch deck for investors, or working on the marketing section of a business plan to be presented to investors. First marketing campaign and the results were going to be presented to investors to then scale. Even participating in those investor conversations, it was always part of our discussion with early to mid-stage companies as clients. So once we were introduced to equity crowdfunding, I saw the opportunity of, hey, we could use our digital marketing skill set to bring these investors that you're seeking to you. And we'll build a good content marketing funnel, social media, email, long form content, including webinars, articles, videos, offering page updates, because it's typically 7 touch points or more before an investor converts. We want to be intentional about what audiences see when they're searching around and doing their due diligence, determining whether they're going to invest or not. So we set up a good content marketing funnel and we drive traffic into it with advertising and with outreach. We've built a database of over 1.8 million historical equity crowdfunding investors, extensive data mining, and can upload that to advertising platforms, can run ads specifically to those individuals, bring them to the offering page, retarget them. Again, it's going to be multiple visits before they invest statistically,
Sure.
and then scale it up as we're seeing performance. We could do the same with outreach using LinkedIn and email, and you're able to look at the metrics. So impressions, clicks, conversions. Everyone wants to focus on the conversions, of course, but the upper funnel metrics produce stronger conversion numbers. But
Yes.
cost per acquisition, return on ad spend. You shoot for a 10x or higher return on advertising spend, marketing efficiency ratio, depending on how you're measuring it. And on a Reg CF, regulation crowdfund that we were mentioning earlier, you could raise up to $5 million. On a Regulation A plus, we're working on three of the top Regulation A plus campaigns that are live right now and historically. You could raise up to 75 million. There's $100 to $500 type minimums, maybe $1,000 minimum that you get to set in your filing when launching one of these campaigns. And you could do another type of filing that's just to accredited investors at a much higher minimum. But I'm a big fan of Reg CF and Regulation A plus. I think it's going to be the primary approach to early stage capital formation in years to come.
Um, what type of companies? What type of companies are a good candidate to work with DNA? Are they tech? Are they pharmaceutical, bio? Um, who are they?
I see the full spectrum of different industries, as well as timelines, budget levels across the board. Groups that have over 100 brick and mortar locations, groups that are not groups, they're solopreneurs getting ready to launch their software. Uh, some of those top campaigns I was mentioning, foldable tiny homes. Uh, Boxable, over 170 million raised to date from over 40,000 investors. Atom Beam, data compaction and government contracts, a lot of tech partners. Uh, 8 figures raised on this round alone. I've worked on 3 Reg CFs before that. Uh, Mode mobile platform, privacy earning all the way through activity. We've worked with tunnel boring companies, graphene companies, fashion, automated retail, you name it, involving the words AI alone, you name it. Whatever I am seeing when I look at media publishing in general, if I'm on Business Insider, if I'm on Forbes, if I'm on any of the websites I visit regularly, whatever I'm reading about, I tend to see come across my desk. So if there's an emerging vertical, we will watch inquiries come from there. If there's a success, full equity crowdfund campaign, we'll see 5, 10 other issuers inquire in the coming months in that same industry. So it's really across the board. Should mention as well too, local businesses. There are breweries and various types of mom and pops that will market their opportunity to patrons, and they could participate for a few $100s, yet get the fulfillment of ownership. They can walk into the brewery and say, yeah, yeah, this is my brewery, I'm an owner in this, and often perks to come along with it. So bringing in first degree, second degree networks into these rounds, then using marketing to get to much higher levels is the approach.
No, that's awesome. So where do you see DNA going? Do you see, I mean, you say you're 20 plus 25 with contractors. What what does it look like in 2 to 3 years?
Well, the industry is relatively small, even though some of these, major private, companies, tech companies are now using the exemptions, Reg CF, Regulation A plus. There's a relatively low number of companies that have run. Only 8,000 companies to date have run Reg CF, excuse me, Reg CF, and there's, tens of millions of small businesses, a lot more opportunity. So as we see, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 more companies utilizing these approaches to actively raise capital, I see more volume, more clients that we're working on. We like to have low entry points for groups to work with us, so it's important that we have volume versus just a few large clients, especially because some of the initiatives are pretty short. So always want to have new brands cycling in and growing the organization. Also, additional entities, financial publishing, investor email newsletters, and sites work very well here. I mentioned I'm part of the Crowdfund Professional Association board. We're working on a tax incentive right now. So investors can get up to 50% of their investment back, capped at $1,000 tax credit, $2,000 investment at the moment. But look to get a lot more awareness from retail
That's
investors
yeah,
into
that's
the
not
space.
insubstantial to people on the smaller end, and
Yes.
it's really bringing big corporate structure and mindset to small business
Hmm.
uh, in a lot of ways. That's great. So you're on a potential growth. I think you will grow from what you've said. Any specific skill sets or people that you're looking to hire?
We're always looking for talent. So business development, anywhere we're targeting investors and bringing them down marketing funnels, we've been able to perform and do outreach not just to equity crowdfunding clients, but also work with some public companies, micro cap, 300 million, 500 million uh, market cap type companies, and have spoken at a good amount of conferences there. We do a lot of work in Web3 and real estate, so anyone with existing relationships, experience in those verticals would be very, very welcome to talk to us. And marketers, growth hackers, content development, distribution, experience, being able to show numbers, as well as media buyers and account managers, strategists. We're always talking to new candidates, and yeah, could get in touch with us through our site, through LinkedIn. Those would all be exciting conversations.
Cool. Very cool. So last question. I haven't asked this one in a while, but we talked about it a little bit before we started the interview. I take you back to a much younger Jason Fishman, and what is one piece of advice you would give to a aspiring entrepreneur or somebody who's maybe launched and realized, oh wow, I wasn't ready for that. So the aspiring entrepreneur or the somebody in their first year of business, what is the one piece of advice you would give them?
Get tougher and make new relationships every day. Strategic partnerships have been instrumental to our growth. Go to networking events every night. There's a plethora of them online, let alone digitally. We're here in Los Angeles. You're likely near a major city. Even if you're not, find digital networking opportunities in live formats daily. You can have LinkedIn outreach going. You could send 25 invitations per day, uh, per profile. There's plenty of tools to automate that. Get on the phone with people you're connecting on with LinkedIn. Set up new calls every single day around partnerships, around groups that can introduce opportunities to you, and it's complementing it. It supports their core business. The quicker you're able to build that, the more successful you can be. And the tough element, it's a numbers game. If you put all your eggs in one basket with any one of these prospects, you'll likely be let down. There's going to be a lot of things that feel like obstacles and push you back, and you need to stay cool, calm, and collected and operate from a perspective that you're working on the business, not just in the business. And with a focus on the big picture, you'll be able to navigate those waters. And over the course of a few years, get a lot further than originally projected.
No, a lot of great buzzwords in there, and a lot that I use on a daily basis
I
with my
bet.
people. And I love you tied the navigating waters for navigating to success. That's awesome.
Hmm.
So, for everybody watching, thanks for joining us on this business journey. Jason, any parting shots before we sign off?
Well, test, optimize, scale. Something I say a lot, happens to be the name of my podcast. Not a plug for that as much as the approach. When we're working as marketers, when we're working towards our own entrepreneurial, journey and growth, you have to test out different channels, different tactics, audiences, messaging, optimize towards what's working best, and look for opportunities to scale. Don't get, too caught up in the day-to-day conversations as much as which category that's falling into. Test, optimize, or scale, and it's a never-ending process. That is my parting advice.
Awesome. Folks, check out Digital Niche Agency, DNA. Jason Fishman, you can find him on LinkedIn.
Yep.
And if you're interested in being on a podcast or you want to talk about your business, find me at coachjeff.biz.